There is something a bit off about extermination. It was made under extremely unique circumstances that basically guaranteed nothing like it was ever gonna come out again. Here, take a look at this. This is a quick timeline with some of the significant horror releases from the PlayStation 2 era. Silent Hill 2 came out really early on and pretty much set the standard right away. So even a game like Fatal Frame, which has a different atmosphere and came out later, or a game like Obscure, which has a very different atmosphere and came out much later, still feels like the same kind of game. Meanwhile, Extermination doesn't feel like the same kind of game at all, and there's a reason for that. It came out right here, just a couple of months before Silent Hill 2, and you can tell just by looking at it. The developers had to figure out what a next-generation horror game would look, feel, and play like, all by themselves with absolutely no frame of reference, which couldn't have been easy. I think they made something really interesting here, and I want to share it with all of you because it answered a question that I've had for a very long time. So far, I've been showing you footage from the Japanese version of the game, but I played most of it in English. For some reason, the localization of this game is very overbearing. All three versions of the game have a different title screen, which I think is pretty uncommon, but it's definitely uncommon for different versions to have a different haircut. In the American release, your main character has a mullet and a different outfit. Really weird choice. The dialogue is also bizarre. It's sped up and slowed down in order to match the character's mouth movements, but it's really obvious.
Now, if you don't mind, I'll keep looking around. I'm gonna get the story of the century here.
It's just one bizarre decision after another, and none of them make sense. I don't know why they did all this. Of course I had to play this version though. How could I not? It's so fascinating. And even with this version, there's a lot of good stuff too. Look at this scene where a character writes a code on a window. I don't think I've ever seen that in a game. This would not have been possible on any previous console. It just didn't have the resolution to make it legible. There's a lot of stuff like this that's just in the game to show off how cool the PlayStation 2 is. At a certain point, you come across this water, which is alive and also immediately freezes because you're out in the Arctic. And just look at it, it's so cool. There's like an actual reflection of your character and his surroundings in there. That must have been a pretty impressive effect back in the early days of the PlayStation 2. It's the next generation, baby. Graphics can do anything now. I talk about water so much on this channel, it's just a bit of an obsession of mine. If the water looks good, then the game looks good. That's really my only requirement, and this game has a lot of great looking water. Even small puddles come alive to attack you, and they have those great reflections as well. They mostly hang out in this water facility, which you drain, and then you get to walk around in like knee-high water, and the reflections on there are really cool as well. Okay, water talk over. From what I've seen, not a lot of people agree with me on this one, but I think the game looks great. The laboratory setting can be a bit gray and boring, but once it gets infected, it looks really cool. The little effects like the fire and the water sprinklers add a lot, and the snow just looks fantastic. This is some of the coldest looking snow I've ever seen in my life. I think it's the fact that your guy covers his face to protect his eyes. That's a small detail not a lot of games would think to add. Your health even slowly goes down while you're standing in it. All these touches come together to make the cold feel real. After a little bit, you find this coat, and if you wear that, your health doesn't go down anymore, and I was so relieved for my guy. It's not even a gameplay mechanic. You put it on automatically. You don't have to think about it at all. I was just happy for him. I don't think he would have survived that part late in the game where you climbed a mountain without it. When you stand on the peak of that mountain, it feels like you're at the end of the world. There's a lot of different types of climbing in this game, actually. I guess that's just something the developers got wrong about the future of survival horror. That verticality in every room does add to that classic survival horror stress when you walk into a room filled with enemies and you gotta figure out where to go. I'm surrounded by weird monsters who want to kill me, and I gotta figure out how to operate this forklift so I can get to the second floor of this room. We've all been there.
Hey Thomas, is it true that you're unironically forklift certified?
No, yeah, I'm forklift certified.
Aw, cool. You ever heard of this place?
Oh my god, I don't care. I don't.
An aspect of survival horror games they definitely got right is this bar, which is a safe haven throughout the game. It's named after Swery65, you know, the Deadly Premonition guy. From what I can tell, he was lead planner and scenario writer for this game. I mean, apparently his influence was big enough that they named the whole location after him. I love this place. You can hear the snow going crazy outside. There's cute little bottles, there's a pool table, the saloon doors make a funny noise when you walk in. great place. One of the many small pleasures of life is hanging out in survival horror lounge bars. Overall, I had a lot of fun with Extermination. It's not perfect, the controls can be a bit clunky, story's not great. Look at me trying to hit this bug, this isn't just me, right? It's not working. You have an infection meter, which is a pretty pivotal part of the game. If it gets too high, you get this weird jellyfish on your back, and you just start dying, but the bugs are impossible to get rid of sometimes. For a first attempt at next generation survival horror, they did a pretty good job though. There's a ton of cool stuff here. I didn't even talk about that crashed plane you explore. Sometimes all the mechanics just come together in a way that's so satisfying. It feels so good when you stun a turret and then cut its wire and you get this satisfying lightning effect. Great stuff. You really do feel like some kind of military specialist when you pull it off. Also, you find a bunch of corpses in the game and they just, I don't know what to say, they look like balloon animals to me.